The NFL draft is one of my favorite parts of the NFL season throughout the year, and there are always what-if moments. What if Zach Wilson actually ends up a top 3 pick just like he did in 2021 to the Jets? Or what if Trey Lance hype actually continues? Is he actually going to be a top pick in the NFL draft? Well, he was number 3 overall to the 49ers in 2021. But what about other players like Lamar Jackson, who fell to the 32nd pick in 2018, or Jalen Hurts, who was the 53rd overall pick in the second round of the 2020 draft to the Philadelphia Eagles? Today I'm going to be doing a what if about a certain player in this draft that, by all accounts, is a boomer bust. By so many people who watch the sport of college football, who love the NFL and love the NFL draft, look at this player and say, oh my goodness, this guy is boomer bust. But with a certain situation that has now taken place in the NFL, there might be a big what if of this player going top 10. And the player today that I want to talk about is none other than Jalen Milroe. But first, a word from the sponsor of today's episode. This video is brought to you by Prediction Strike, the world's first fantasy sports stock exchange where it pays to be a fan. Have you ever heard your favorite sportscaster say that they had stock in that player since day one? Well, Prediction Strike makes that a reality. With the lowest fees in sports at 2.5%, you can start trading today. Thousands of people are already participating. It's time you put your sports knowledge to work and do the same. Get in on your favorite players, the next superstars, and the players you know are being slept on. Right now, when you sign up, you can use code DDS that lets them know that we sent you. And when you make that first deposit, just make sure you use promo code DDS. That is capital D, capital D, capital S, code DDS when making that first deposit, and you'll get a deposit match bonus of up to $200 over on Prediction Strike. Thank you to Prediction Strike. Now back to the video. Jalen Milroe grew up in a military family. His father served in the Marine Corps and his mother in the Navy, and he attended Tompkins High School in Katy, Texas, where he was highly touted as a 4-star quarterback, leading his high school team to over 30 wins in 3 seasons. Now, after he initially committed to Texas, as Texas Longhorns, that was his favorite team growing up, he ultimately chose the University of Alabama with Nick Saban, and of course, we know this would prove fruitful. Now, if we take a look at his high school career, he played football at Tompkins High School in Katy, like I said. As a junior, he threw for 2,689 yards and 29 touchdowns, also adding 378 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns to his repertoire. As a senior, he passed for over 1,136 yards and 13 touchdowns. He was a 4-star prospect ranked highly nationally and especially in Texas, and Milroe led his team to a 9-0 record in the 2020 COVID season, passing for 1,136 yards and 13 touchdowns while rushing for 259 yards and 4 touchdowns. He played in the Under Armour All-American game. This was enough to lead and land him at Alabama. Like I said, originally committing to Texas, he flipped. Wanting to play under Nick Saban at Alabama, he sat behind Bryce Young as a backup in 2021 and 2022. But in 2023 is where he finally would earn the starting position and lead Alabama to an SEC championship. That 2023 season, it's important to note that although he was a backup in 2021 and in 2022, he did get some game time. He played, 4 games in 2021, 8 games in 2022, essentially coming in here and there for 263 yards in 2022 for 1 touchdown. But here we are. It's 2023. And now he's the starter. In 2023, Jalen Milroe would throw for over 2,000 yards, 23 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he would also rush for 531 yards for 12 rushing touchdowns. In 2023, Jalen Milroe was also in the 2023 Heisman voting. He came in 6th place, but he did make it on the list with the likes of Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jordan Travis, and Jalen Milroe. Now, of course, what would happen in 2023? Alabama would win the SEC championship game, of course, only to fall against Michigan just a couple of weeks later. But as we all know, that wouldn't be the end for Jalen Milroe. He would come back in 2024 and have over 2,800 passing yards again, 16 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a little bit more than the previous year. But he would also rush for over 700 yards, 726 to be specific, and have 20 rushing touchdowns in 2024. Now, of course, they would lose too many games, some unexpected games, like one against Vanderbilt, and they would actually miss out on the playoffs and lose in the bowl game that they have against Michigan. But Jalen Milroe is still an incredible prospect. Throughout the draft process, Russell Brown is quoted as saying that he's only heard positive feedback about Alabama QB Jalen Milroe, and that he would be surprised if he isn't selected earlier than expected. This is interesting, because somebody by the name of Kyle Brandt, who you may know, has spoken to a ton of NFL draft prospects on Good Morning Football, and he's come away most impressed with QB Jalen Milroe. Very sharp, eager to learn, kind, fun, and that he loved him. Now, we can't forget that Jalen Milroe is the first player with 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in a single game in Alabama history. Consistency in processing still needs work for Alabama QB Jalen Milroe. There's no question. But he's got the size, he's got the speed, and by God, he's got the arm. What was the recent thing that I said at the top of this video that has happened that might lead Jalen Milroe to being drafted earlier than expected? Saints starting QB Derek Carr is dealing with a shoulder injury that threatens his availability for the season, per Ian Rappaport. Surgery is on the table, and all of a sudden, the Saints could have a hole at quarterback. What does this mean? This opens the floodgates for that number 9 overall pick in the 2025 draft. Do they trade back? Do they trade up? Most importantly, what quarterback do the Saints go with to replace Derek Carr if he's out for the season? Now, of course, the top names would be a Shedeur Sanders, who it looks like he's going to slip. It looks like he's falling in the draft, and the Browns, the Giants, have no need at drafting Shedeur Sanders top 3 overall. But if it's not Sanders, who it easily could be, some people might say Jackson Dart. I say nay. Jalen Milroe, and I did say this as a hot take just a couple of weeks ago, the connections of that new head coach down in New Orleans with Jalen Hurts. The connections that Jalen Milroe has as a prospect, the similarities to Jalen Hurts. Is it possible that Jalen Milroe could go 9 overall in the 2025 draft? Possible? Yes. Probable? Maybe not. But should we be so shocked that Jalen Milroe goes top 10 overall in the NFL draft? I don't think so. I want to compare his last 2 years as a starter to somebody else who you're going to know the name of. So, Jalen Milroe, the last 2 years as a starter, has played in 26 games, 5,673 passing yards, 6 games with over 250 plus passing yards, 39 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. That's incredible. I want to compare him to somebody that went 4th overall in the NFL draft by the name of Anthony Richardson. He played 24 games, 4,719 passing yards, 4 games with 250 plus yards, 28 touchdowns, and 22 interceptions. Is it crazy to think that Jalen Milroe can go 9 overall, especially compared to somebody that went 4th overall in the NFL draft just a couple years ago? I don't think so. And I believe that if Jalen Milroe were to get drafted to the Saints with Derek Carr in his ear, it could be incredible. Would I rather see Jalen Milroe go somewhere like the Steelers or to the Rams, where he can sit behind Matthew Stafford for a year and come into his own in 2026, maybe sharpen the edges of some parts that's rough in his game? Absolutely. But would I be upset if he got drafted to the Saints 9 overall? Absolutely not. Would it be a shock? Yes, it would. Would it be crazy? Absolutely. But what if Jalen Milroe got drafted number 9 overall to the New Orleans Saints?